Welcome to where smart entrepreneurs locate their businesses for strategic growth.
Welcome and thank you for joining. Today we'll be talking with three experts about one of the most important decisions that a business can make: location. Picking a location based on infrastructure, talent, institutional support are crucial for growth. What types of criteria are important when selecting a new location to expand your business?
Yeah, there were a lot of things that went into that decision for us at Viva Systems. We're at about $3 billion in revenue and 6,000 employees worldwide, and we were looking for a second U.S. hub. We looked at talent pipeline, and that's both for existing hires. Viva operates in a highly regulated market, so regions that had other highly regulated markets were attractive to us, as well as, of course, the general technical pipeline. We also looked at the public school system, the strength of not only K through 12, but higher education as well. So we hire a lot of new grads, and we wanted to be in a place that could produce kind of a strong pipeline for us of new grads. And then I guess the last thing I'd mention is, as far as our search criteria, was really looking for an energetic tech community. So a technology community that was creative, high energy, entrepreneurial, so that we could kind of find like-minded spirits as we were kind of going through our talent recruitment process. Also, I won't leave out cost of living, right? Because a place where your engineers can buy a house with a yard is fantastic. So those were some of the big reasons that we included in our search.
Well, thank you for that. We like to call it affordability without compromise, and I'm glad you were able to find that here in Ohio. Can you talk about the ecosystem and the partners that you found in Columbus and other places in Ohio that were important to your decision?
Yeah, because that was a big part of it too. So I mentioned a little bit about the kind of entrepreneurial feel. So having a group like Drive Capital here, which is the biggest VC between both coasts, really contributes to that feeling. We love that focus and attention. They've had some great exits that they put on the community, and they have funded a lot of great leaders of companies with good ideas here. And that rising tide lifts all boats. It attracts people, right, that are into that same sort of entrepreneurial spirit. So that's been good, I think, for us, a good fit. Of course, your own organization, Jobs Ohio, as well as the city of Dublin, were really instrumental in our final decision when it came down to kind of our top three cities in choosing Ohio for Viva. Ohio and the Columbus area in particular has a really strong CIO forum. So my peer CIOs in other companies, bigger and smaller, than Viva, have been not only welcoming, but very open. And we share ideas. We share, we don't really worry too much about, we might be competitors. We think more about what we have in common. And that's been really invigorating for me personally, just to, participate in things like CIO Tomorrow. One Columbus has also been a wonderful organization to work with in the greater Columbus area. So we have really found a lot in common. The people are really nice, and I know that sounds simple, but that was really important to us. When we recruit, we look for smart, nice, and works hard, and that pretty much describes Ohio.
I think that was a great, we like to fashion ourselves as friendly people who enjoy collaborating and still like to roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty. It's been a successful formula. Could you please tell me more about your experience leading a global hub right here in Ohio?
Yeah, so Columbus for us is a general business office. The only other two general business offices we have at Viva are our headquarters in Silicon Valley and near San Francisco, and Budapest in Europe. So that means while those other areas, the other offices we have in our portfolio are some are larger even than the Columbus office, but they're either customer centers, specific development centers for a certain product, or sales and services offices. So only Columbus, aside from our headquarters in the U.S., is this general business office. So that means we have product engineering, product support. We've got cybersecurity team here. I've got some of my internal IT team, most of it actually, AWS data center, even finance, legal. So we have, all of those functions at Viva besides just engineering. Being close to one of the nation's largest universities definitely does not hurt us there. We were able to consume graduates not only from the computer science department at Ohio State, but also from the Fisher School and the Moral School of Law and all those different areas. So that was another big winner for us, was having such a great school with such breadth near this general business office for us. I'll add a couple more things about being a global company in Ohio. Eastern time zone, that was really important for us because of the proximity to Europe, as well as all of the North American time zones. So being right in the middle like that makes it easy to schedule calls. You get overlapping business time in the morning and in the afternoon with, either side of that range. And travel, right? Travel is a lot easier to, get a connection out of New York or something and fly over to Europe really quick, than it is flying there all the way from the West Coast. So that kind of, pan focus on both of those major regions for us is also really, really helpful. It is a lot less. It's actually great. We built the Columbus office itself. We physically designed the office to be a meeting hub. So Columbus is the place to be at Viva if you're holding a global team meeting. You can bring 100 people in here. You can use the beautiful extended meeting room facility we built with work breakout room space and phone booth space. And plus there's a lot to do. It's fun. It's a lot more cost effective than trying to bring a team into Manhattan or London. This has been a great place. And we've had many teams now come to visit us this spring that don't even have anybody in Columbus. They're flocking here for because of its proximity. So it's very well located and it's turned out great for us.
Well, today's a lot about location, but increasingly it's also about talent. So can you describe how locally sourcing within Ohio, staff sourcing, has worked for your global company?
Yeah, so we think about that a lot. We've had pretty good luck, especially here in Ohio. Even during this great resignation, that we've seen a lot of movement in all the technology community globally, and especially in the United States. Viva grew 21% last year during the big great resignation, and we grew 30% the 2 years before that. So we're continuing to find those people and to grow even in this, this economy and this situation we find ourselves in. We started out with 40 in Columbus. Now we're 225. I think part of that is we're on the destination employer side of the equation. So this is maybe a new thing for some folks to try, working for an enterprise cloud software company. So we're seeing a lot of folks that haven't worked in product before, come and talk to Viva about joining the company. So that overall has actually been, it hasn't really slowed us down. Hasn't really slowed us down a bit.
So as a Silicon Valley company with locations in Canada, Europe, Asia, Latin America, can you share a little bit about your sense of connection to your global operation from your position here in Ohio?
Yeah, there are actually very few single country teams at Viva. Almost everybody has teammates they work with on a daily basis that live in other countries around the world. Everybody gets good at time zone math and knowing what time it is in Singapore or Paris. That's actually one of my favorite parts about working for Viva, is that exposure, to our coworkers around the world. We're really effective users of Zoom. Our CEO actually sits on the Zoom board. So we feel like we have leveraged that technology just kind of deep into our DNA. Right click video call somebody is now it feels just like get up and go over to the desk, at least as close as you can get without being there. So that makes one global company kind of feel like one company, not pockets, around the U.S. So our location in Columbus, we could be sitting really anywhere, especially with Viva's work anywhere model. That's been important to our hiring as well. You can work, doesn't mean live anywhere. You need to live within plus or minus a time zone of your team's kind of global hub. But if you live in Canton or Akron or Cleveland, come and work for Viva Columbus, because you can work from anywhere. You can wake up on any given day and decide I'm going to come into a Viva office. I'm going to work from home, my mom's house, top of a mountain, whatever, whatever is appealing at the time. So that ability is also not only helped with the talent marketing for sure, but also back to, connecting that sense of global org. It's that way in all the countries around the world. So you kind of never know where someone is when you're talking to them. Viva has a consistency too in our design elements in our offices. So if you happen to see someone else in a Viva office, you know where you are. We're obsessed with orange globally. As typical product company, right? There's a lot of merch. So you'll see people wearing Viva shirts and it feels like one team when you see that.
Catherine, as a business leader, what key elements do you feel are important to have in order to maintain the connection to Viva's global presence?
Yeah, JP, we do that through several kind of tools that are built into how we live and work at Viva. One of them is called OrgWiki. That's our tool where you can see anybody in the world, hear how they pronounce their name, read a little bit about them and the team they're on and what they like to do. That's the first stop before you meet with anyone. So we feel like that really helps us get to know each other and stay a little bit closer. The name pronunciation is really important. Names are important, especially with a global organization. So that helps us all kind of recognize each other. We have quarterly global all hands meetings that our CEO leads, and he frequently has wonderful speakers from life sciences. We had a guest from a customer come in and explain how messenger RNA works to everyone in the company, and lots of very interesting topics. Those hold us together. And we do small things too, like we have a lunch program in the Columbus office with a wonderful food partner in Alchemy, and we'll have Viva days where we'll eat what the folks at Viva Tokyo might be eating that day, or in Viva Seoul in Korea might be eating that day. So this that kind of recognition kind of keeps us all aware of our place in kind of the global Viva community.
How have factors like institutional stability, better cost of living, and strong local economies impacted your talent development plan?
Well, those are all reasons we actually ended up choosing Ohio, and the city of Dublin was very helpful with us as well. That's where we ended up building our office, was in Dublin. Ohio and Columbus, the whole region, have really big plans in the tech sector. Ohio is killing it. We've got some great new technology giants coming here. We've got Intel coming on the hardware side. We've got, Workday interested in Columbus as well. And that's wonderful, to have that level of, injection of talent and interest in the technology community in Ohio. So I think we definitely picked right.
And talk about how location has played a role in your work in Toledo and the great work you've done to help restore Toledo and your new location along the waterfront downtown.
It's good to be with you, JP. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you.
So how would you advise other entrepreneurs across Ohio and how they could help make an impact in their own community?
Yeah, we have this conversation a lot, and I'm not going to use the argument, of benevolence that, it does have its place, just to pull on the heartstrings of entrepreneurs and say, well, you should come back home and do your thing. Because the fact is that it just doesn't have a great return, making that argument that we might hope it does or that it should. But the case I want to make for making an impact on your community is that there's a ton of opportunity there. If you're, opportunity can not only enrich you, but it can also make a great benefit for those who need that visionary leadership and innovation. So there is the argument or the case to be made for doing great things because it's your home. But there's also a lot of opportunity in markets like Toledo and Dayton and Akron and et cetera, to where, people can really get in and make a difference and create value for themselves and others.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your work engaging multicultural and diverse audiences, leading Afrotech and producing the Black Tech Green Money podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So Afrotech is a conference that I first heard about after the first conference happened. So the conference is about 6 years old. And at the time I had a startup that I was, building, and it was a technology startup, and a white advisor to my startup asked me, what would it take to get more, Black kids interested in tech? And I said, well, they need to see more Black people who look like them, and like a Black Mark Zuckerberg. And, I kind of kicked myself after that conversation because we have so many successful Black people in tech, but at the time we just didn't know who they were. And so I started a podcast called the Of 10 podcast, because I was only going to do 10 episodes, 1 of 10, 2 of 10, 3 of 10. So it's called the Of 10 podcast, where I've highlighted really successful minorities in technology. And after that, run, I had heard about this conference called Afrotech. And I was surprised that I had never heard of it, because everybody had interviewed on that season of the show was on the stage at the first Afrotech. So I'm like, how did I not know that this thing even happened? And so I committed that I was not going to miss another Afrotech. And so I went that next year and I vlogged every day of the conference. So I took my camera, and I was recording all day long, and I edited the footage that night in my hotel room, put it on YouTube that night. And, the next day of the conference, people were like, how did you produce all that content that fast? This was just yesterday. And so I did the same thing that next day. I recorded all day, edited that night, put it on YouTube. It's still up on my YouTube page. So if somebody, goes to YouTube and searches me and Afrotech, they will find these videos. So this conference is one that I lead today. And it's, it's the first couple of years we're in San Francisco, then it's moved to Oakland. We've been in the metaverse for the last 2 years because of COVID. And this year we'll be back IRL, back in real life. This November, we're moving to Austin, Texas this year for the conference. But it's 20,000 Black people in technology who come together to find ourselves in this community, because so long we haven't seen ourselves in these spaces. And so I have the privilege and honor of being the brand manager for Afrotech, which means I'm tasked with setting like the direction of where the brand is going to go. And Black Tech Green Money is the official Afrotech podcast, where we kind of do what I was doing with my Of 10 podcast some years ago. It's really highlighting those prominent, African Americans in technology to show that we are doing this work and we're finding success in doing this work.
Well, I've been fortunate to have been able to get to know you, and I've seen you volunteer with Lieutenant Governor's Innovate Ohio Board. You clearly put your time and prioritization on supporting your broader community, and that's really what it takes. As you become more involved in those kind of initiatives at the state level, what do you think are the benefits that economic development and economic developers can play in specific regions of the state?
Yeah, I think, again, like this, when I talk about there being opportunity, for so many years, Ohio was looked at as a flyover state. And I'm like, and people who have been here know that that's not true. They know that there's so much happening in the state of Ohio, and people are starting to take notice. There's, some of the biggest tech companies in the world being built here in the state of Ohio. And then you've got people, my counterparts here in Toledo and areas like this, who are becoming computer programmers and scientists and engineers and finding ways to build really cool things. And so for me, finding and attracting investors, and finding and attracting startups, and finding and attracting people who want to build the future, it's built in places like this where there's need and opportunity, and an ecosystem designed to help them be successful. So what I encourage investors and startup founders and engineers alike is to really take a look at locations like the state of Ohio and places inside the state of Ohio, depending on, Columbus is a lot different than Toledo, which is a lot different than Dayton, a lot different than Cincinnati, and et cetera. There's so many, kind of mini Ohio's all over the place, to where you can find a culture that fits to what it is that, that speaks to you. And you can find both a market and talent to be able to build those things in these centers of geography.
Why don't we close it out, Will? Well, what do you see as the biggest innovations or the biggest changes coming out from Ohio businesses and leaders over the next 10 years? Make some predictions for us.
Yeah, so we talk about this a lot, even in the Innovate Ohio space, is when we double down on the industries that we're really good at and where we're uniquely situated to be industry leaders at. When you think about healthcare, you think about insurance and those sorts of industries, I think Ohio is well positioned. The sciences, the life sciences, Ohio is well positioned to be the leader in the world in these verticals. And particularly for me, one thing about being in Ohio is you get to take advantage of the landscapes where if you're talking about Web3 and you're talking about NFTs and blockchain, et cetera, there are so many industry leading experts who are right here in Ohio who, you can get that download from to be able to take advantage of those investment opportunities and those asset opportunities early. So those are some of the things that are really important to me: life sciences, healthcare, insurance, and also Web3. There's so many implications that Ohio is being innovative at.